Hey, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime. Let's start off today with a little commercial, actually. That's right.
Attend the HIA-LI 34th Annual Business Trade Show and Conference at the Brentwood campus of Suffolk Community College. Do business with over 4,500 business professionals. Make the right connections at the largest Long Island B2B trade show. Attend executive programs, walk the floor, attend the seminars, and participate in the speed networking on Thursday, May 26th at the Suffolk Federal Credit Union Arena at the Brentwood campus of Suffolk Community College from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Register now at HIA-LI.org. That's HIA-LI.org. Attend the
And there you go. All right. Put me on. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, that was totally unsmooth. I've spent a good amount of time this morning trying to figure out how to add that slide in, which did that. So that was good, and then get the mute and get that ad going. So, by the way, that was compliments were through. I don't know how technically to put it over that one, but Mark Brzezinski at CBS Odyssey, he's they're going to be down there. They're going to be down at the show. So, hey, Mark, that was good. I asked about playing that whole thing, so that was fine. Probably should have asked the HIA too. Didn't do that. Gosh, how many people ask about everything, right? It just gets to be so much. So much all over the place. But anyhow, so and the slide we put up, let me just throw that slide back up over there. So this is with Ron Loveland. And Ron and I have had a couple of conversations about this thing, but Ron has got this little, it's not actually a little, the manufacturing committee is making a big splash at this one too. If you've been following along with Ron, the HAA, especially the manufacturers, the job world, there's so many companies out there, and you see it. There's so many companies out there looking for people. That help wanted sign is out there. We have a very interesting world we live in at the moment. Between a combination of the great resignation going on, then we have the, oh my gosh, we can't hire people. And then the going entrepreneurial side of life, it's just wild. Really wild. Every once in a while you get these things. Well, if you could go back in time and meet somebody, who would that be? I tell you, one of those things that I'd like to go back in time with is one of these big time shifts in the way things actually operated, in the way we did things, in the way that has kind of made such a major impact on us. And let's just stay here on the United States. I'm going to go all the way back. There's a whole bunch of different things to do that one. But let's take a look at the United States. I mean, we had some really big things that went on. Obviously, the Revolutionary War. Obviously, the Civil War. Obviously, the discovery of oil. The whaling industry disappeared basically overnight. Rockefeller came along with the oil. Had all that going on. And then, of course of that, machinery came along. Yeah, farming equipment came along. And then the Industrial Revolution came along. And then we've also had other advances with technology and stuff like that. And, there's been some meetings that I've attended kind of referring back to that. Like, oh, yeah, everything's on Zoom and we're communicating differently and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, you know what? We've been through this before. Different technology, different time frames, but we've been through this stuff before. Oh, I didn't go to the comments here. When the phones came on, phones, phone, I'll get that right. When phones came along, and it wasn't a matter of, I know I don't need to speak to Bob and Mary over at their business, and you go and do that, and you got to go and walk down to Bob and Mary and take a look at, talk to them about their business. And, now, well, not now, but then you were able to pick up a phone. There we go. I got the comments up over there. Live one again there, Kurt. Yeah, absolutely. I actually timed it. Put a timer on there. Top tomato. Whatever. Yeah. So you had to go down the block, right? Everybody worked real close, and you go down the block and you speak to Bob, Mary, whatever, about what's going on. And then that phone came along. It's like, oh, you pick up a phone. Well, you didn't have to be any place. So I wonder, and this is where I'd like to go back in time. I wonder what their conversation was at the time, just like our conversation is right now. Well, you've got you. What do you mean? I don't have to go down. I just pick up a phone, but now we're not face to face. I lose the body language. I lose all the rest of that kind of stuff. We're having the same conversation. Same conversation. And we probably shouldn't because a lot of stuff is on video, so you do get to see the body language. And maybe you do get to see them kind of drifting off as you're giving a speech or a panel discussion or whatever, that kind of thing. But you know what? It's changed. The technology has changed. The way we communicate has changed. It will continue to evolve. And we've had these conversations before, and we will have these conversations yet again. I mean, you know, let's go back to the Jetsons, right? That cartoon from the 60s to 70s, where like a lot of that stuff has actually come to be. Telemedicine was a big thing in that one too, right? But and flying cars, that kind of thing. But this we will continue to advance. I'm waiting for the holographic images to come up next, and I don't think we're waiting terribly long to see that one happen either. Flying cars, that one kind of I wonder about. We, I don't know. I really wonder about that. I've seen the way some people drive. I don't want you flying. You don't even want me flying. Tell me. I'm telling you right now. All good. But so it's changed. So a lot of those things, have changed. So now we have this great shift in the way people operate. And I'm going to tie this into branding on this one too. But we have this great shift in the way people operate. You speak to some of the high school students. Some of them are so unbelievable when it comes to their entrepreneurism. I'll go back to that gentleman at one of the high school career days. He comes up and he starts talking about this clothing company he's got. He doesn't have a manufacturing facility. He doesn't have a team of employees. What he has is the full use of the internet and his own creative ability to come up with designs, and everything is outsourced to somebody else someplace. And then it's all on demand. You don't need inventory. Fascinating. Fascinating. You told me about all this stuff 5 years ago, man. I had no clue in the world what you're talking about. Yeah, I get the gray hair thing. I got that issue happening. But that's changed. That has changed quite a bit. And I can tell you, some of the folks that are feeling some of that pain are right there, those manufacturers. Because it seems like those that want to do and be creative are finding ways to go and do it. Others just don't see it. That's what kind of tying in with the whole idea of we need to adapt to change. And I think a lot of businesses need to adapt to that change. And Ron actually brought this up, I give him a lot of credit, about companies need to be seen as exciting companies to work for. I could take a look over here and see some of you guys that are on the, in the chat area there. I mean, you get it, right? How do you attract good employees? Not employees. How do you attract good employees, engaged employees? They need to want to work for much more than just a paycheck. Countless examples of that one, personal examples of that one. But we need to work for more than just a paycheck. We need to let them see that they're working for more than a paycheck. Advancement, yes, you're an employee today. Maybe you can become a manager tomorrow. That might be it. Maybe somebody just really wants to continue to grow with their title, their area of responsibility. Maybe that's it. Perhaps they're in sales. They want to continue to boost their sales because they, love working with different people and want to maybe gain a bigger area to work with. Maybe explore the idea of maybe training people, maybe, getting further and further deeper into the relationship with the customers. Not just being that first conversation, but actually working through the whole thing, the whole contract negotiation, the whole way through. Be more of a consultant than a salesperson, which is probably not a bad idea. If you speak to our sales coaches, you should be a consultant, not just a salesperson. You are that resource, the rest of that stuff. But what is it? What is it? Do you really know? Do companies really know? And we'll look this way, but do companies really know what those employees are looking for and what areas of the business truly excite them. I don't know. I'm not in that category over there. I'm go it alone kind of guy. Worked with a few partners, and I'm going to introduce you to one of them as we go through over here. But those companies, the perception of those companies really needs to be there, and that goes into the brand, right? Company might feel that, oh yes, we're very entrepreneurial spirit. We want to see you grow. We want to see you take on new responsibilities. But do they give the employees the chance to do that? Oh, do they really? I could go back to a conversation I had with another company, whereas the perception I thought of that company was very like assembly line kind of thing. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you can take a look at so many industries and so many companies within those industries. And going back to that original comment I made here about technology, it continues to move things forward. But not only does it continue to move the way we communicate forward, it continues to move the way companies operate going forward, the way they market, the way they deal with their employees internally, the way they're using social media, obviously, the way they're producing things, and the way they are helping out their customers. So it's a big point in time I'd like to go back to. It wasn't when the telephone came up, but it was when we went from a farming community when 80 or 90% of all US citizens were on the farm. Then it shifted where all those people left the farm and then they started working in the cities, the Industrial Revolution. Maybe we're on the flip side of that Industrial Revolution. Companies are still producing, don't get me wrong on that one, but a lot more automation is involved in a lot of these companies. So that is why they may be looking for more of the creative types in there because those companies can produce a lot more widgets, the good old widgets, than they can before because it's now automated. But that gives them what? What does that give them? It gives them the ability to take a look at their customer base and see different ways that they now have the time to go and interact with those customers and explore perhaps new customers, maybe smaller customers, not just the big ones, because that automation process is there. But the design process, that, that I think is really the amazing part of the whole thing. Kurt, always a pleasure. James, good to see Mike and team. But that I think is pretty much the fascinating part of the whole thing. The cost to produce an item. And you know what? This is some of the things I'd like to discuss with Ron and maybe some of the manufacturers too. But the cost to produce an item, and I know about inflation, that aside, let's just go real big picture over here. But the cost to produce an item, if you're making nuts and bolts, how much did it cost you to make that nut and bolt years ago versus how much does it cost you to do it now? You don't need people to do it. The cost of a car, it seems like the cost of a car keeps going up, but the technology in a car continues to go too. So I wonder in some inflation adjusted kind of a thing, whether or not cars are really more expensive today than they were back in 20, 30 years ago because of all the new technologies and stuff like that. And I also wonder if we were producing cars the way it used to be, where you had so many people involved in that assembly line. Now there's very few people involved in that assembly line, if they would be able to do what it is that they do today with making a car. I have no idea how complicated it is and how many wires and cameras and everything that's in there. We just picked up another car. It's a new car to me, as Alex had stated. It's a new car to us, and I think it's 2018. So it's not even that, but it's like so many different things in there, much different than what the prior cars were. Much fascinating, and I imagine that makes it interesting on the repair side of things, with guys. So it's just a regular straight car, long gone, long gone. Go back to my little '74 Capri story when I raced it at Freeport Speedway. Very exciting. Well, I knew how to adjust the carburetor. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I took the hood, I lifted it up, and I adjusted the carburetor. That was it. That's all I could do. Now, well, I wouldn't even know where to begin. I don't even know if you can do that, that stuff anymore with the newer cars. I don't know. Leave it to somebody else to do. But the point is that so many things have changed. So it is really, really, I think, a massive, massive shift in everything that is taking place right now. And how do we get these? How do we deal with that? With the students that are just not seeing it and just not seeing what's possible, versus the students that think everything is possible because everything's on the internet and you don't need to actually physically make stuff if you want to be an entrepreneur. So it's kind of fascinating. So if I went back in time with that whole thing, I would be really curious to see what it was really like and how we dealt with that, even politically. How did you deal with that? All those people moving from farms, from out in the wherever, into the major areas, and the amount of housing that went along with it, the expenses that went along with it, the sanitation, everything that went along with it. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And now here we are going the other way. Going the other way. A few things going on in the city areas that people are not too happy about. It seems like crime has been increasing. Not good. Subway, is it? And we just talk around over here. I don't know what's going on the other place, but Subway, a little bit more dangerous as that goes along. So I don't know. I've never seen a lot of people move out here. So big changes, big changes. So it's interesting in that respect. All right, so let's go on here. So Suffolk Community College, the Brentwood campus, the HIA trade show, it is there, and I can tell everybody's a couple of different reasons for me participating in that one. With Ron, specifically with Ron on this one and assisting him and sharing out that flyer. So I'll make that flyer shareable in a separate thing if anybody wants to do it. But those manufacturers are all out there and they have a job fair component within that HIA trade show. So if you're going to go to that trade show, you're bringing business cards, you're doing your HIA, you're doing your trade show thing, without a doubt. You've got this aspect of it. So if you know anybody that's looking for a job in manufacturing of some sort or working with the manufacturers in probably a multitude of different ways, that aspect of it is there also. And the other thing that I'm hoping we'll be able to get the point across is, again, those vocational programs. All right. That's going to be a big thing on mine. And that's my involvement with the ECNY Foundation and CEO, Career Employment Options. I do those career days, and there's a reason I do it. I love doing it. It's fun. It gets me excited again, talking to those students. And sometimes it's talking to the other businesses that are participating. Yeah, especially when I say, go back in time. Remember when you were young? What skills did you have then? And all of a sudden, you've got a career out of it. And I had a couple of people come up to me at the last one, go, oh yeah, you know what? I actually did. It did. Latest conversation on that one had to do with somebody who had mentioned that if this young person should have been a lawyer because they can win every argument. I'm like, yeah, well, don't you think that students, kids, and I'm talking kids here, can only go back to that fourth grade class, right? Not that the kids are arguing with each other, but somebody's steering that group of people in a certain way. Somebody's learning communication skills. Somebody's learning how to persuade a group of people to move in a different direction, motivate a group of people to move in a certain direction and come to a decision on something. Pay attention to that. You got a young kid, or if you get the opportunity to speak at one of these career days, I don't care what grade it is. Let me tell you something. Ask them what their personality is like, because that will certainly lead them into some direction in most cases. In most cases. Ironically, when I was in the elementary school, I loved being on stage. When I got to high school, I didn't. Got to college, I did. We all go through different phases as that goes. So anyhow, so that's at the HIA Trade Show, HIA-LI. Sign up, and you can certainly do that. All right, let's move on to this next slide here. Brand story casting. So I want to share this with you, the brand story casting, and that's my friend Arthur Germain with BrandTelling. And here's the tie-in on the whole thing with that one, but I'm going to let him. Well, I'm going to play what he put together over here. About what is brand telling, but I think a lot of this truly ties in with everything that we are talking about. What is your brand? What is your brand? What is a brand? Is my brand what I think my brand is? All right. Well, the answer to that is no, it's not. My brand is what you think my brand is. That question is, am I doing the right things in order to have you understand what I think? Am I doing the right thing? Am I showing myself properly? I should really put the words together on this one properly too. But am I doing the right thing? Am I showing you the right stuff? Is my About Me page, is my LinkedIn page, Facebook page, this thing, business card, all the rest of that stuff, those 30-second words, that elevator pitch, is all of that actually communicating in a manner that I want to have communicated out where you see me the way I want you to see me? And there you go. And I can guarantee each one of you see me slightly different. And if my wife is kind, she won't tell you how frustrated I get every once in a while. So sometimes, many times, it's not all smiles. All right. So what do you think? Let's go listen to Arthur Germain over here and see what he's got to say about our brand telling. And he does a real podcast, by the way, sometimes with video.
Germain. Welcome to the BrandTelling podcast. I get asked a question a lot, and that question is a real simple one. What is a brand? And everybody has a different point of view. Designers often say it's your corporate identity, including your logo, your colors, your typefaces, your image choice. If you're in promotion people will say it's the way you display and share your brand via clothing, printed materials, and handouts. Every local business organization will tell you it's how you promote yourself via their sponsorship opportunities. And digital marketers will say it has something to do with your online reputation. Now, they're not all wrong, but they're not entirely correct either.
For me, whether it's your personal brand or your company brand, it's about the promise that you're making to your intended audience. It's the way that you convey your mission, your vision, and your values, and how that impacts your intended audience. This is different from how the brand looks or what type of printed products you hand out at a trade show. In a way, this view of the brand impacts everything you do. Does that make sense? Let's look at a few examples. Apple promises tech you can use that fits into your lifestyle. For a creator, that might mean a comfortable tool that they can use that doesn't change the way that they create at all. McDonald's, don't laugh, but McDonald's promises a quick filling and consistent hot meal you can rely on when you're on the go. No matter where you go, you know what you're going to get from a McDonald's. For a busy mom or dad, that might mean something they can pick up for the family on the way home. Nike promises performance in their activewear. For an athlete, that might mean an extra few seconds shaved off their time on the track, or it could mean a little bit more distance on a throw. And Amazon, well, they promise everything you need as soon as you need it. And for an apartment owner, a new apartment owner, that might mean getting all their bathroom and bedroom supplies as soon as they moved in and not before. So that's a lot of packages that can be delivered after they're inside and not from their old home and have to be carted with them. You see where I'm going? The brand statement here is all about how the brand promise is relevant and resonates with the intended audience. Think for a moment about your brand and what it means to your intended audience. What does it mean from their point of view? Not yours, but theirs. How will it deliver a positive impact? Can it deliver a surprise? What do I mean? Remember that first time that you stayed at a really nice luxury hotel with a turn-down service, and you came into the room and your bed was turned down and there was a little chocolate on the pillow? Do you remember that surprise? That kind of stays with you, that feeling. It stays with you forever. Quick story. The first time that my wife and I took our girls to Disney World, when we purchased something in a gift shop in the park, one of the staff offered to have it delivered directly to our room. I was floored. This is the first time I'd heard that. I said, sure, absolutely. That's a great idea. Now, of course, if you're cynical, you might say, well, sure, this is a great way for them to get more sales in the park, that they can sell more items because they're carting it back to your room, and you're not going to say anything to get back and you go, what the hell did we buy in the park all day? But, look at it again from the perspective of the busy, overwhelmed parents who are already toting multiple kids, backpacks, bags, strollers, sunblocker, water, and whatever else they need. If Winnie the Pooh can be waiting at the room, it's one less thing to carry, right? I am all for it, and you're all for it too. That becomes part of the Disney World brand promise, a magic time in the park. I'm Arthur Germain, and this is the BrandTelling Podcast. Please check back and join me next time. If you'd like to discuss ways to improve your professional services brand story, book a brief introductory call to see if I can help. My URL is meeting.brandtelling.com. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Arthur. There is certainly, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. We don't need that stuff. And it goes, that's it. What do we got here? I got 26, well, we're 26 minutes. Got 4 minutes in. Let's see if we can end this thing. I'm going to move the clock over there this way. I see that whole thing. This way I look like I'm more organized. It's funny. It's not where it's funny. Actually, what's great. I met Arthur years ago. Actually, it was at the HIA trade show. I had called him up and I had spoke to Terry Maselli at the time. And this is years ago. Could have been 10 years ago or so. And I was like, hey, Terry, I think it would really be good for trade shows. And I've had this conversation at other places too, right? And that is giving the booths, the folks, the vendors, some more information as to what they could do in advance in order to, bolster attendance at the trade show. So I was talking to, Terry about her point of view. Obviously, if I'm speaking to a vendor, there's tons of things that you should do. And Arthur and I have done this throughout the years too, when we've taken these booths at these things. So I spoke to Terry. It's like, Terry, I was like, I'd like to do a podcast. It was a podcast, no video. She's like, well, why don't you do it with Arthur? Who's Arthur? Arthur Germain. He was helping out with he's doing the PR work for the trade show at the time, for the HIA at the time. So okay, did it. So what you saw there with Arthur, that personality there, organized, smooth, has it together. You know something? He still is that guy. Great information, very organized, meticulous, all the rest of that stuff. That's all the stuff I am not. I am not. He knew what he wanted to say during that podcast. He does a couple of them, and I'll continue to share them, as we go forward over here. You were talking about partnerships. That's really it, and he gets it. He understands the change, and he's adapted his own business too. He uses his writing skills in the brand storycasting, the brand telling, and everything. So it's really good. And it's so important in this day that we understand that whole idea about what is our brand. If you want to get people to follow you, if you want to get people to buy your product, if you want to get people to know, like, and trust you and all the rest of that kind of stuff, everything you do impacts that. Everything you do, all the little wording in there, all the sentences that you write, the videos that you do, everything does. Should you do it really organized or more off the cuff like I do? It depends on your role. Arthur maps out his strategy, works with companies to really develop a plan of action. What I want you to do, get out of your way. And just jump on the camera, man, and start going. That's the way to get started. Different. It's all different. Doing that whole thing. Do I see a world of possibilities? Yeah. So does he. So it's not like we're in different worlds over here. We're definitely in the same world. We just different approaches to it. And that's, I think, is what actually makes it exciting. And it's one of the reasons why I've gotten along so well with Arthur over the years, learned so much from him over the years. And I have probably frustrated the crap out of him over the years too, with doing different things. But you know what? Sometimes that is what it is, and I am what I am, and that's all that I am, et cetera, and that's where that one goes. All right, we got 10 seconds left. I'm going to try to end this thing on time, which means I am going to end that. HA Trade Show, great. Hope to see you at that one. I think that's the next big one. After that, June 14th, I'll be at the Miller Business Center actually chatting about your elevator pitch, how to deliver and create that elevator pitch with confidence. Confidence, big stuff. Here we go, 30 minutes. Remember, my friends, do what you do best. Speak well, speak often, live inspired. You just might inspire somebody. Maybe you know, maybe you wouldn't know. Doesn't matter. It's how people see you. That's the important part. All right, have a great day, great weekend, and we'll talk to everybody soon. The car.